This is a guy who spent at least a week plotting this. He was going to take the secret to his grave. He had it all planned out. He had a drop point and everything. And his plan was to jump off a 15-foot building, hopefully not get hurt, and then scurry to a busy highway. And because of the way it was clipped, I kept watching that footage this weekend that they played in the courtroom, and I thought, they're hiding something. Something happened on that roof. He's not working alone. Whoever's on that roof is not working alone. They're hiding something. In all likelihood, what they're hiding is communication. In all likelihood, what they're hiding is communication. Communication with the cars on the ground, communication with somebody under the tent, something. Something. And I don't know what the form of communication was. Was he carrying more than one cell phone? Did he have a poster board he held up that said, "Hey, I'm about into position"? I don't know. But I'll put money on it. I'll put money on it. I'll donate $1,000 to TPUSA if they show us the whole footage and there's no attempt to communicate with anybody else. That's how confident I am. And I think the prosecution's hiding it, and it terrifies me that the defense might be hiding it as well. We'll find out, because we might not if Tyler Robinson dies. And this is why I'm worried about Tyler Robinson's safety. This is why I'm worried about his health and his safety. They don't want to show you that video footage. If something happens to Tyler Robinson, you'll never see it. They'll delete that footage so fast, your head will spin. They'll close this case. They'll pack it up. Woo! There'll be about 1,000 people involved in this case that'll all take a collective sigh of relief and move on. Where was his backpack? Where was his backpack when he climbed off the roof? Was it on his back still? Had he taken it off of his back? Was it in his hand? Where was his backpack? What color was it? Was he wearing a jacket? Was he wearing a sweater? You know, we saw the pictures in the stairwell of him, and he looked like he just had on a T-shirt. But then we heard the testimony or the phone call from the guy who recorded from the side, and it said he looked like he was wearing full tactical gear, jacket, boots, shorts, gloves, a whole 9 yards, maybe even a face mask and a helmet. So if that guy says he's wearing a jacket, where's his jacket? Does he take it off? Can you find it? Have we found it? Speaking of being on camera, he Spider-Man's off the building. And then we see him run to the street. And then the camera cuts off. They cut the footage. But they tell you he ran to the woods. How do they know that? If the camera footage stops with him at the street, how do they know he went to the woods? Are they guessing? Is there camera footage of him crossing the street, or does it stop when he gets to the street? And if there's camera footage of him crossing the street, does he go towards the woods? Do you see him go into the woods? How do you know he went in there? We take them at their word, and there was no real cross-examination on this, and it was a little disappointing. I would have loved them to say, "Well, whoa, Mr. Investigator, you say he went to the woods. How do you know that? How do you know he went to the woods? Do you have video footage of him in the woods? Do you have an eyewitness that shows him going into the woods?" Because if he was going to the woods, did he cross the street? And if he crossed the street, did he take a right or did he take a left? Did he go straight? Where did he go? And then do we ever see him again? In other words, when he comes out of the woods, allegedly, assuming he went into the woods, do you see him again? Is that how you know he went into the woods? Because you saw him turn right and then you lost him towards the wooded line and then you see him come out and he's you can tell it's him somehow? And did he go anywhere else on camera? Is there anywhere else he went on camera except the woods? And if he did, can we see it? Will you show it to us? Do we see him going anywhere else at all? The Falmina lady, the detective, sergeant, whatever she is, Jennifer Faustina. No, Faustina's a saint. Falmina, I think is her name. Testified he went out of frame. Testified he went out of the frame. So how do you know he went into the woods? It's pretty convincing. That's a pretty critical part of this whole story. Jumps off the roof, runs to the woods, stashes the gun. Comes out of the woods, no gun. Different shirt. How long did that take? I mean, I measured it. It's about 100 meters down there to the wood line, to the chicken coop from where he came out of on the street. So let's assume he's not a world-class sprinter, because a world-class sprinter can cover 100 meters in about 10 seconds. This is a guy who supposedly is carrying a 43-inch long Mauser 98. He's in tennis shoes, jeans, and a shirt, certainly not what Olympic sprinters are wearing. He's not coming out of blocks. He's not running on even terrain. He's running through grass and trees. You can call it 45 seconds to get there. Then he's got to stash the gun, roll it up, put it in the bushes, change clothes. Another 2 minutes, maybe. So we're at 2:45. If he comes back on frame, that should be like 3.5 minutes later, right? Give or take. Maybe 3 if he's super fast. So do they have him coming back on camera? If so, was it 3 minutes later? And was he wearing different clothes and he didn't have his gun anymore? Something tells me they know the answer to that question. And the reason they cut the footage off before he crossed the street, before you saw him take a right, before you saw him go across the street, before you saw him take a left, wherever he went, I think there's a reason they cut that footage off. I went back and watched all this week. This is what I did. This is what I do. I go back and I watch all this and I say, why are they cutting there? 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 He walks up to the street and they cut it. Why? Obviously doesn't fit their narrative. So I'm gonna anticipate he did not go to the woods. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say he did not go to the woods. And that's why they cut the footage right there. I think they saw him. I think they saw him continue on wherever he was headed. Maybe he took a left and went up towards the library. I don't know. Maybe he crossed the street and went into the neighborhood. Maybe he did go right and get off the frame. But why wouldn't they have shown you that? If that's what happened, why didn't they show you that? Do you remember the footage very early on? It came from Phil Lyman's aunt's house. Phil Lyman's aunt's house. It's the footage that had Tyler walking down, I think it's 800 North. I think is the name of the street, maybe 850, something like that. But he's walking down the street and he's limping. And he kind of crosses the street right in the front of Phil Lyman's mom's house, and he continues on, and then he goes out of frame. Well, he doesn't really go out of frame. He actually goes to the end of the frame and stops once again. He's always stopping, waiting, talking. I don't know what he's doing. He's the stoppingest criminal I've ever seen. Most criminals have a mission. They're going in, they're coming out. Not this guy. Not this guy. This guy's hanging around, stopping at the top of a parking lot structure for a minute, stopping at the end of a driveway for some unknown reason after being caught on camera. Stopping on the roof for 10 or 15 minutes for God knows what. We have no idea what he was doing, if he was operating alone. Charlie Kirk was already on stage. What are you waiting on, big boy? You're here to release the boom switch. Let's get going. What are we waiting on? The only thing that's going to happen for 15 minutes is you're going to get caught. You're going to get caught. That's the only thing that can happen. There's no upside to hanging around unless you're not alone. Unless you're not alone. But do you remember that footage where he's walking and he limps? Well, after the event, I think they had it at 12:29 on their timestamp. You see somebody scampering behind the houses across the street. He's in full black. He's in black top, black bottom, or maybe dark blue bottom. But he's, jeans or black pants or blue pants and a black top. And he's scampering through back there. 12:29. Now, we're told at 12:24 and a half, he comes down off the roof. And then he walks out to the street. Falmina tells us he goes into the woods. She doesn't see him on camera. He leaves the camera frame, but she's confident he went to the woods. Because that's where they found the gun, of course. Went right to the woods. And then he's got to change clothes. Now he's got to scamper back behind there, and he's still wearing black. If he changed clothes, why is he scampering behind Phil Lyman's neighbor's house in all black? You tell me he changed clothes into exactly what he was wearing before? Well, this black T-shirt is going to be suspicious. Let me put on this black T-shirt. They'll never suspect me. That was a weird choice of. It was a weird choice of clothing change. You might as well have saved the time and not done it. And so the narrative already begins to break down. You'll notice they did not introduce any of that footage at the preliminary hearing. Him limping in, him scampering away. They didn't put any of that in there. They told us about it. They told us about it, but they didn't introduce it. Because if you introduce it, you can start asking questions. You remember after the event? After the event. Well, first, let me go back to the change of clothes. They're confident he changed clothes over by the gun. They testified he changed clothes back there. But what did he put on? Did he go back to maroon? He goes back to maroon like everybody else there that day. Apparently, they all wear maroon. Or did he go back to a long sleeve black shirt? What did he put on? Why can't they tell us? But you remember after the event, Officer Bagley testified he had a gut feeling that the shot must have come from the Losi Center. So he races over to the Losi Center, as racy as a guy his size can be, frankly. Not a very racy looking individual. But he races to the Losi Center. He climbs the Losi Center. Dadgum body-worn camera footage just fails. It just dies at the most inconvenient time because, lo and behold, he was just about to discover the only thing that ties Tyler Robinson to the roof, which is the red and black screwdriver. Now, we didn't learn about the red and black screwdriver until September 15th. Now, on September 11th, when we first heard about the screwdriver, it was in the bushes. By the 15th, it had migrated. It had flown through space. It had violated space-time continuum, and it had made its way to the roof. That's where Kash Patel tells us it was located. But then we looked at footage from Life is Driving, and we saw there were like 4 other cops on the roof. Did any of them have body-worn camera footage on? If so, where is their footage? Why can't we see their footage? Surely somebody captured this amazing screwdriver discovery. Surely somebody walked over. Surely Bagley was like, yo, Smith, get over here. Take a load of this. You telling me he bagged it and tagged it himself? He discovers it, and his body-worn camera footage just happened to have died? And then he made sure everybody stayed back at a safe distance, and then he made sure to take care of all the evidence himself with no cameras rolling, and only then would he allow other people to approach the area? Is there anybody at all who has body-worn camera footage that can show me that screwdriver on the roof? Because I don't believe it was there. I don't believe they found it there. I think the initial reports are accurate. There might have been a screwdriver near the bushes, because I think that was going to be the original story, is that the screwdriver was found with the bushes. They needed something else with his DNA on it. Something else to put the gun together. They had to have the story compact. Speaking of body-worn camera footage, there was an Officer Goforth. He did not testify. Again, no one testifies in this thing. Officer Goforth didn't testify, but someone said that Officer Goforth had encountered Tyler Robinson at 12:36 a.m. near Campus Drive. And at 12:36 a.m. on Campus Drive, when he makes this initial contact, something's off and he feels a little weird. So this trained officer, rather than looking at the license plate and writing down the entire license plate number, just writes down part of it. Even though he felt like something was weird, he doesn't detain the weird guy. He doesn't get the weird guy's entire license plate. He just writes down part of it. Did he have body-worn camera footage rolling? Can we see Tyler Robinson in the body-worn camera footage? Can we have him turn? Does he turn and show as he's approaching the car? Does he show the license plate at all? Can we go back and look and make sure that was the same Tyler Robinson, the same Dodge Challenger? It's a weird encounter. I think it's designed solely to put Tyler Robinson in that location at that time. Because then 9 to 11 minutes later, I can't remember if it was 9 or 11 minutes later, that's when Miss Nobles picks him up on the Nest doorbell footage camera. And on the Nest doorbell footage camera, there's a bald guy and 3 passengers. That's what she said in her statement. So why did she think she saw a bald man and 3 passengers? And why haven't we asked her? Why wasn't she testifying? Why don't we have her statement? Why won't she give a statement? I know multiple people have tried to contact her. She's as friendly as the day is long until you tell her that you'd like some information, and then she hangs up on you. Why? Why not just be honest? It goes back to the Brett Weinstein comment. If Tyler Robinson did it, what's up with the cover up? Why are we locking down all the evidence? Why are we trying to jimmy things around a little bit to where you can't tell exactly what's going on, and you just got to trust us, bro. We don't want to see him go out of the. We know he went to the woods, but we can't see him go to the woods. Well, can you at least roll the camera footage for like 10 more seconds so we can see which direction he walked? It wouldn't make sense to me that if he went to the woods, he would have come out that way. In a minute, I'll pull up a map and I'll show you why I say that. But if you're going to the woods, why are you running to a dadgum highway first? You just killed a man. You're holding a gun. You're going to run out to a busy intersection instead of just walking behind some buildings and then crossing the street when no one's looking? You're going to go stand by the side of the road instead of going down a little bit further down. It just doesn't make sense. It is almost as if he did not go to the woods, and they know it. I'm telling you right now, if he crosses that street, he did not go to the woods. He didn't go to the woods. Because if he crossed the street to go to the woods, he would have to walk down the busy street. This is a guy who spent at least a week plotting this. He was going to take the secret to his grave. He had it all planned out. He had a drop point and everything. And his plan was to jump off a 15-foot building, hopefully not get hurt, and then scurry to a busy highway where he's going to walk down the road with a gun in his hand? Are you out of your... That's the story we're told? I think the reason they cut the story, the screen off, is because he did not go right. He did not go into the woods. That's my guess. That's my gut instinct.